evening and welcome to news. I'm Salmata Jalloh. Coming up in tonight's edition of news, Salion's Deputy High Commissioner to Nigeria expressed his gratitude to the President, the government and people of Salion for securing his release from kidnappers. Salion joins the rest of the world to observe World Population Day. Parliamentary Oversight Committee expresses dismay over deteriorating conditions of technical and vocational centers in KABALA. And residents of Hillcourt Road expressed concern over the delay in the construction of the road. All the stories and more, including business and sports news, online tonight. Welcome to news. For our first story tonight, Salion's Deputy High Commissioner to Nigeria, Major General Retired Claude Nelson Williams, has expressed profound gratitude to President KOROMA, the government and people of Sierra Leone for their effort in securing his release from kidnappers. The general was speaking whilst having audience with the President at State House. Razia Bashkama sent us his reports.
Deputy High Commissioner, Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Dr. Samura Kamara, said the Deputy High Commissioner was kidnapped by unknown criminals in the evening of the 31st of June this year. He maintained that fortunately, through President KOROMA's intervention and that of the Nigerian government, the Deputy High Commissioner was released on the 5th of this month. Speaking on the delegation that the President instructed to lead to Nigeria to collaborate with the Nigerian authorities, Dr. Samura Kamara said on the delegation's return, they decided on the advice of the Nigerian authorities that the Deputy High Commissioner needed to come to Sierra Leone. Giving glory to God Almighty and acknowledging that indeed God is in control, Major General Retired Alfred Claude Nelson Williams expressed deep and profound thanks and appreciation to His Excellency the President for his prompt and timely response in securing his release, and secondly, for the warm reception he gave to his family. He also expressed gratitude to President KOROMA for mobilizing the government and people of Sierra Leone, including members of the Fourth Estate, in securing his speedy release. Welcoming the Deputy High Commissioner and family, President KOROMA said as a government and nation, they were very anxious and saddened when they heard the news, but the family showed great courage and supported the government in the process. As they all rallied round as a government, nation and family, they all went through a very difficult period. He thanked President Muhammadu Buhari, the government and the people of Nigeria for the support they provided so quickly, and disclosed that government was in discussions with them, during which time he quickly dispatched a high-level delegation to Nigeria. President KOROMA noted with satisfaction that based on the collaborative efforts made by them and with the help of God Almighty, they secured his release.
That went out there, even though they got news about the release before they arrived, but I think they've had subsequent meetings with the authorities there, and we hope that very soon we will put a closure to this chapter. I think there are still outstanding issues that have to be dealt with, and we hope that they will be concluded shortly, so that we put a closure, and then we can come out stronger and better as a nation. We don't want any Sierra Leonean to be subjected to these kinds of things, because any one of us subjected to it is an issue for the whole country. So that is why I must also thank the general public for the support, the messages of encouragement, the prayers they offered, and it has all amounted to where we are today.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Samura Kamara, briefed newsmen on the unfortunate kidnapping of Major General Retired Alfred Nelson Williams.
The Deputy High Commissioner was released around 1600 hours on the 5th of July 2016, again along the Abuja-Kaduna highway, by his captors after intense pressure mounted by the Nigerian police, using both land and air patrols. The Major General retired was in good condition at the time of release, good condition of health, but upon his request, he was examined very, very thoroughly by the Nigerian police medical team. And I believe he was given appropriate medication. He was reunited with his colleagues in the High Commission in Nigeria immediately after his release, and then subsequently with his family on Sunday, yesterday, 10th of July 2016.
Let me start by saying that I was on an official duty. That's why nobody can dispute that. And that after I applied, I got the approval in the evening hours from Her Excellency Jalloh to KABALA, and then I took off. We met a snap checkpoint. They were dressed in military fatigue. In fact, we were inside Ibadan, Kaduna. And normally, as any responsible citizen, if you come across a checkpoint where you see a soldier or a policeman, you have to stop. And you were asked to come down, and they started opening fire. Then later on, they told us that we've been abducted. They said they wanted to get a point of contact. And the only person that I knew by then for them to talk to was my head of Her Excellency to KABALA. All communication done, was done between Her Excellency, I don't know the people that he contacted, but I suffered a lot of ordeal. My life was threatened. I did not take my bath for 5 days, but I thank God that I'm alive due to Almighty God, the government and people of Sierra Leone, the collaborative efforts with the Nigerian government, because they mounted surveillance and they were frightened, and they were also carving on them. As I'm now talking to you, I think they've arrested 1 or 2 people, but I don't want to jeopardize the investigation that is going on. But I think what is more important is that during my time of ordeal, in terms of need, you people supported the government. So I thank you, and may God bless you.
That was Sierra Leone's Deputy High Commissioner to Nigeria addressing the local press on why he was kidnapped and later released after 5 days in captivity in Kaduna State in Nigeria. Earlier, he met with President KOROMA. Presently, he is with his family, and later he will be going back to Nigeria to continue his duty as Deputy High Commissioner in that part of the country. The United Nations Development Fund Country Representative Dr. Kim Eva Dixon has called on governments to invest in teenage girls to empower them so as to be able to contribute to decision-making processes of the country. She made a statement at a ceremony to mark World Population Day celebrations at the Miata Conference Hall. How Musiri was there?
Gains made in reducing poverty and improving opportunity and well-being for many people around the world, hundreds of millions remain desperate for a chance of a better future. Among those least served by previous development initiatives are girls, particularly those in their formative teenage years. Empowering teenage girls to acquire education and make free and formative choices, but their sexual and reproductive health stay in school. Acquire skills and participate fully in society helps them live healthier, richer lives and build stronger and more prosperous families. Teenage girls need the capacity, the means and the information to make personal life decisions, realize their full potentials and contribute meaningfully to society. The Deputy Minister of Finance and Economic Development, too, Momo Vandi, highlighted that the theme for the celebration is timely as it encourages both government and partners to put modalities in place how to invest in young people, especially teenage girls. Mr. Vandi disclosed that the Ministry of Finance and Economic Development has a critical role to play in population and development issues. This effort has been made to revitalize the population unit of the ministry in addressing population issues. The Deputy Minister of Finance stated that there is the need to empower teenage girls to make informed choices.
This year's theme is a contribution to the ongoing global debate on the imperative of investing in teenage girls to improve on their economic and social well-being, an issue that should be concerned with our national development strides. In our society today, teenage girls face much greater risk of abuse, sexual exploitation, violence, and forced marriages.
The teenage years are for some girls a time of exploration, learning and increasing autonomy, but for many others it is a time of increasing vulnerability and exclusion from rights and opportunities, or just plain discrimination, says the United Nations Population Fund Country Representative Dr. Kim Eva Dixon. Dr. Dixon notes that when a teenage girl has the power, the means and the information to make her own decisions in life, she is more likely to overcome obstacles that stand between her and a healthy, productive future. This will benefit her, her family, and her community. She adds that Sierra Leone is ranked as the 15th country in Africa in terms of child marriage, as they are deprived from education, health, and social activities.
Every teenage girl has the right to a safe and successful transition to adulthood, and the right to embrace opportunities that the future holds for her. By prominently featuring girls' rights in the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, the international community responded enthusiastically to the evidence that investing in girls yields huge returns.
The United Nations Resident Coordinator Sunil Sagal says the international community has committed to a new sustainable development agenda built on the principles of equality and human rights. A central objective of the Sustainable Development Goals is to leave no one behind. The United Nations Resident Coordinator stated that despite significant gains made in reducing poverty and improving opportunity and well-being for many people around the world, Mayan Samai, who did a presentation on why invest in us teenage girls, appeals for a call to action, as many teenage girls are suffering too much in Sierra Leone, especially those in the rural areas. According to her, most of them are dropped out of school because of teenage pregnancy or child marriage. She appealed for more opportunities in terms of education and health, as they are also deprived from these facilities completely.
Girls are generally left behind in every aspect of society. Mr. Chair, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, today I would like to talk on why investing in us, teenage girls, is a smart choice for Sierra Leone and the world in general.
Director of Reproductive Health, Ministry of Health and Sanitation, Dr. Santiki Sise informed the gathering that reproductive health is one of President's key priorities, adding that young girls should make use of contraceptive provided in various government hospitals in reducing teenage pregnancy. Irish Ambassador to Sierra Leone, Dr. Snead Walsh, also pledged her continued support as they are now planning with the government to work on bridging programs for girls who are dropped out of school. SABC TV News Eye in Freetown, Hawa Mosiri reporting.
Sierra Leone's ambassador to the Republic of Korea, Omri Goli, has received a communique from the United Nations headquarters in New York expressing appreciation for his participation at the United Nations Department of Public Information NGO conference held in Korea. Lucian Ganda has more.
In the letter from the UN Under-Secretary General for Communications and Public Information, Christiana Galak, Ambassador Omri Michael Goli was commended for his role as one of the public speakers at this world event. The United Nations Conference, which met under the theme Education for Global Citizenship, Achieving the Sustainable Development Goals Together, was the first of its kind to be held following the unanimous adoption by all UN member states of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Its outcome, the Gwangju Action Plan, expressed the strong commitment of civil society to work towards the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, with particular emphasis on promoting education for global citizenship. Civil society representatives also expressed their continued support for the United Nations and urged member states to live up to their commitments. Ambassador Omri Goli was further congratulated by the UN Under-Secretary General in her letter for his role on making the conference an overall success. The decision of His Excellency Ambassador Omri Goli to participate on this year's event follows a courtesy call upon the ambassador made by the organizers of the conference in May this year, and an invitation extended to him at that meeting to speak at the World Gathering. The speech delivered by the ambassador at this conference was founded upon the strides made by the government of Sierra Leone in providing safe, inclusive, and accessible education for its young citizens. Newser, Lucian Ganda reporting.
President Ernest Bai Koroma has received in audience the founding president of the Australia-African Chamber of Commerce and deputy chairperson for the Department of Foreign Affairs of the Australian government. Raza Bashkama sent us his reports.
Briefing President KOROMA, Madam Fleming said it is a great pleasure to be in Sierra Leone and that one of the main reasons she wrote to President KOROMA is for her to share her work with African children. The president of the Australia-Africa Chamber of Commerce disclosed that she is aware that President KOROMA has an agenda for prosperity for which she is very excited to be in Sierra Leone. Madam Fleming added that she is also excited to share with President KOROMA the comments and thoughts about Ansumana KOROMA, who has been a friend but professional colleague for about 7 years and is a member of the Australia-Africa Commerce that is totally committed to Sierra Leone. She maintained that it was Mr. KOROMA that presented a case to her and argued that it was her job to write to the Federal Minister for Health to argue that the Australian government had to increase its support for Sierra Leone, which they did together. Madam Fleming pointed out that those briefings have been very important and she believes the Australian government's commitment to Sierra Leone during the Ebola efforts. Madam Fleming revealed that Ansumana KOROMA used every network opportunity to raise the consciousness not just for Sierra Leoneans, but even raise the consciousness for Australians, which was why he received his award for his support to the Ebola orphans.
I think at the moment there are huge shoes to be filled when you finish your presidency, and I am quite emotional and moved by what I've seen, by what you've done. One can read, but seeing is believing, and I want to be back here next year with a delegation. I would love to come back with my chairman of GSIR, the 27th Prime Minister of Australia, Julia Gillard. She, like you, but not, she had less time, achieve great things. And she's been travelling with me in Africa and was with me in February, and we went to several places. We met with President Kagame. We also met together the Prime Minister, the President of Mauritius, and we're committed to our work in Africa, but we're committed to Sierra Leone.
Welcoming Madam Fleming to Sierra Leone, President KOROMA said it has been a great pleasure to have somebody like her that has been an advocate and supportive of Sierra Leone even before visiting the country. The President expressed delight that she is finally in the country and that she will have an opportunity to have a feel of the country itself, to experience the warmth of the people and the great expectations that the government and the nation have. He added that as a nation, they have been through the good and difficult times, and that since independence, they have had their challenges, including 11 years of a very terrible civil war. President KOROMA noted with appreciation that the people have shown a great amount of resilience, and that is why even when the war was declared over in 2002, quickly thereafter, the country built its democracy by having free and fair election. Quickly thereafter, the country built its democracy by having free and fair elections at all levels. President KOROMA maintained that they reformed their institutions and systems, and by 2010 to 2011, as a government and nation, they positioned themselves as the second fastest growing economy in the world.
But having people like you out there who have been supportive by even welcoming our kith and kin that had cause to leave the country under the circumstances they left. But we are welcome out there, rehabilitated, given the kind of encouragement that was required, given opportunities to be educated and having educated themselves and playing that important role. I am very proud that we have people like Ansumana out there, and we need a lot of Ansumanas, that we go out there as ambassadors of our country, showing and also telling the good stories of our country, what the Sierra Leonean can be. In him, as you have highlighted, I feel very proud that we can have a Sierra Leonean who has transformed himself, who has gotten into the society, and not only for his personal benefit or advancement, but he has been there influencing the minds of Sierra Leoneans in Australia, influencing the minds of Australians, and also influencing the policy direction of the government, so that a greater focus could be paid to countries like ours. I am very proud of him. I have been talking to him once in a while, and continue to encourage him to do more, or to stay close in helping our people.
President KOROMA addressing an envoy from Australia. As climate change continues to pose threats to the country, the first ever vulnerability assessment of the country's coastal communities to climate change is to be held, with the aim of identifying the impact of climate change on coastal communities and to address its impact. Against this backdrop, the West African Biodiversity and Climate Change, in partnership with the National Protected Area Authority, has started a training for researchers on the vulnerability assessment of coastal communities to climate change here at Kuna Lodge in Freetown with friends from the USAID. Ibrahim Sumar was there.
This training brought together participants from the University of Sierra Leone, Jalloh University, the Environment Protection Agency, the National Protected Areas Authority, the Ministry of Lands, and other participants from Liberia, among others. This is part of preparations for the country's first vulnerability assessment of the coastal communities to climate change. The objective, among other, is to support resilience for coastal ecosystems and communities, and to work together to better understand and address policy, practice, and research. Executive Director, National Protected Area Authority, Dr. Kole Bangura, welcomed the initiative, saying climate change is a concern in the country. Dr. Kole stressed on the importance of mangroves in mitigating climate change and adaptation in the sub-region in general. 60% of the country's population, he said, lives on the coastal areas.
Help us identify the drivers of deforestation of mangroves. It will also identify the poverty level of people living within those areas, because they are cutting down these mangroves because they need to live. So therefore, after all this assessment, we'll be able to find the necessary livelihood programs to support them. In other words, they need livelihood programs for them to be able to adapt to the environment in which they live.
The Deputy Chief of Party West Africa Biodiversity and Climate Change, Tinga Anada, said his organization's main goal is to improve conservation and climate change resilience and low-emission growth across Africa. He said they are focusing on 3 components such as combating wildlife trafficking, supporting resilience in coastal communities, and reduce deforestation, forest degradation, and biodiversity loss. He said ECOWAS, Mano River Union, and the Abidjan Convention are the key African partners. Dr. Sylvia Shasheka from the Center for International Earth Science Information Network, Columbia University, is the lead facilitator of the assessments.
Everybody with me so far? We're going to go actually into the 4 main mangrove areas of Sierra Leone, which is the Scarsis River Estuary, the Sierra Leone River Estuary, the Yori Bay, and the Chevron River Estuary. They also happen to be MP games.
The Minister of Agriculture, Forestry and Food Security, Professor Monty John, has explained some of his achievements during his 5 months in office. He explained more about his achievements to colleague Daphne Kimamakwali in this interview.
We came up with a vision, and that has been clearly spelled out, not just to the ministry personnel, but to the people that are actually working on the ground, the farmers. If you should recall, I spent the first 2-3 months, in office, visiting the fields, talking to farmers in various provinces, the various districts, and went to some chiefdoms and some villages and towns, talking to the people, just to get their feel of what they want from agriculture. So these are strategy issues to flood our country with domestic produce, and to cut down on the importation of rice and other commodities.
Currently, a bag of rice is close to 200,000 or more. But don't you think the ministry should engage more on producing rice?
Of course.
Than putting all those strategies in place?
That's what we are doing. The emphasis is on rice production.
So
let me tell you, the emphasis is on rice production, primary commodity that we are addressing, number 1. And then the emphasis is also on going to produce onions, because we are spending quite a lot of money also in importing onions and vegetable oils. And at the same time, that's why we're going into poultry production as well, because the country is spending a lot of money. Even chicken wings is being imported from Brazil. It's a parboiled rice produced in Sierra Leone. It's about 180,000.
Well, it's more expensive than the imported. A cup of
what is more expensive?
Locally produced rice is
let me tell you. What is more expensive than the imported rice? It's raw meal rice. There is raw meal rice. There is parboiled rice. Most Sierra Leonean prefers eating parboiled rice, but the raw meal rice, the imported one, is going for 130,000.
Well, that's also too expensive for a staple food.
For a staple food that we produce, yes, I agree with you that it's expensive. I'm not very sure that it is too expensive, when you compare to prices from other countries in West Africa. Of course, it is our wish in the Ministry of Agriculture that will bring down prices to the lowest, to get it as low as possible so that every Sierra Leonean will be able to afford and eat at least their staple food, which we're talking about, and that is rice. You know, we want to see this price get down to the lowest level, and this is the reason why our strategy is to increase production. That is natural. It's usually what happens.
Most of these traders are saying it's not actually they're buying the rice that expensive, but it's the means of transportation.
Transportation could be a problem, I agree with you. And this is why what we are doing is to practice this outgrower scheme so that the farmers will be linked onto these mills, rice mill that I mentioned earlier on. They will sell to those rice mills, and it will be the function of those rice mills to transport the rice to Freetown. I agree that they're going to include transportation costs. And this is why His Excellency the President, being a person with foresight, is trying to come up with good roads, and coming up with good roads across the country, linking production areas to areas of consumption of the food. I'm talking of production areas like in Makeni or in Bo or in Kenema.
So what is the ministry doing towards that?
Ministry, it's because of this agreement, all we can do is to ask that people should, in fact, they're not supposed to pay the regular task that you expect them to pay.
Okay, so what are Sierra Leoneans should be expecting within the next few months?
I will think that within the next 2 years, which is in line with within the next few months, this ministry would have worked with its partners, would have worked with the farmers, would have worked with other academia in the country, to ensure self-sufficiency in key commodities. And at the same time, making sure that we add value and export those commodities, export to earn foreign exchange. So instead of spending 250 million importing those key commodities that I mentioned earlier on, we will cut down considerably on the export, and now we will be generating foreign exchange to this country to make sure that our people comply. And I tell you, everybody has been very cooperative. All the farmers have been very cooperative, very compliant, and I'm really very happy and very optimistic.
That was the Minister of Agriculture, Forestry and Food Security, Professor Monty Jones, explaining the strides made in his office 5 months. The Sorghum Farmers Association is calling on government to facilitate the speedy implementation of the Finance Act 2016 to encourage local manufacturers to absorb a greater percentage of sorghum, resulting in a considerable change in lives of farmers and their households. Rose Konima Stevens reports.
In the past 10 years, the Sierra Leone Farmers Association has made tremendous efforts in sorghum production, which has impacted the country's economy and making reliable income for sorghum growing farmers.
Yeah, it has a tremendous impact in the economy across all the value chain. The first beneficiary of this impact is our art grower. Our program of sorghum started in 2005, and today we have an objective of 10,000 art growers in 2016, which basically will benefit of all the sorghum. How they benefit? Any sorghum they are going to produce this year will be sold to the brewery, and the brewery pay them cash. So that's the sorghum, the art grower. And the art growers are organized with the nucleus farmers, and the nucleus farmers come to the brewery. That's the first part of the value chain. The second part of the value chain is that we brewery, we process the sorghum, we transform it into the beer or the maltina, and that go to the end consumer via first of all the transporter, our local transporter, Sierra Leone. They will get business, more business, and then they go to our key distributor, or also Sierra Leone. they'll get more profit, and at the end, it reaches to the athlete and the consumer. So the whole value chain will definitively see the positive impact of the sorghum.
Sorghum, like other crystals, is an exceptionally good source of starch, flour, and flakes, which can be used to produce a wide range of industrial products.
Water, those are the key inputs of our process. Basically, in everything we produce is a locally produced brand. We use sorghum.
Sorghum can also be melted and therefore can be processed into malted foods, beverages, and beer. Willie Alphonse Ngana is the managing director of Sierra Leone Brewery Limited. Willie Ngana says year by year the Sierra Leone Brewery increases brands, so there's need for increase in consumption as well.
Yes, of course, there is an increase year by year, and as long as we are also increasing brands, we use sorghum. It means that also production increase and consumption of sorghum increase. But the most important thing is that this year we will see a tremendous increase in the production and the consumption of sorghum, because we are planning to launch 100% sorghum beer, but also with the investment of a mash filter, which aim at improving the sorghum processing in our production, we will increase the inputs of sorghum in all our brands.
Sorghum is of huge economic importance because it's grown for food. It plays a pivotal role towards agricultural development in some of the poorest countries of the world. The Sorghum Farmers Association is therefore calling on the government to facilitate the speedy implementation of the Finance Act 2016 to encourage local manufacturers to absorb a greater percentage of sorghum, which will result in a considerable change in the lives of farmers and their households.
Residents of Hillcourt Road, including bike riders and passengers, have expressed concern over the delay in the construction of the Hillcourt Road, especially during these rains. Omubakar filed in this report.
The construction of this road has caused different problems to many people residing and doing business within the Hillcourt Road community. Speaking to SLBC, Aisha Kagbo and other residents said because of the delay in the construction of the road, the heavy rains have destroyed our properties. Senesi More is a welder at Hillcourt Road. He said construction work has damaged his welding tools. Bike riders are the most vulnerable users of this road, as according to them, over 20 bikes get involved in accidents every day because of the wet clay on the road.
Yeah, the most dangerous place maybe say yeah, bike man left for that fast. One the place is simple. And most of the guys that are right now, they don't balance the place. They don't keep
Omubaka reporting that as over 100 billion leones, Technical Vocational Training Center in KABALA is reported to have been a white elephant project. The chairman of the Transparency and Accountability Committee, Honorable Claude Kamanda, has expressed concern and called for an immediate action to be taken. He made this call during an oversight visit to the local council in KABALA. Mao Ali went along.
So I don't need for pushing in our office. No, if I would have the good work, I don't need for good but all the machinery, when you put guys themselves together, I can't show for that. Fairman look at Taylor, when they show for themselves, they hire look as enterprise. But we wait for big commissioning, wait for gadgets there. Now everything the building has to be converted. Would that allow for converter? We say education. That is how the people get learning and tornado in the streets. When you talk about TECH-VOC, just for paying for teachers and let them go train them for camp, let them can't teach. I say no more government business. But when we put 100 million for open solar, we start giving for Shidon. Here we start there, 100 million. They will allocate how many millions for let the people that can do this. They don't land now. In order to go at least for good bad, for that in Timor, in good work, that side, and so that way we know they spend 100 million for open solar. They will be comfortable. Then the beginning of KABALA, they know you for land without producing the land.
Honorable Claude Commander said the Ministry of Education has deprived the people of Koinadogo district from becoming self-reliant. He said government is doing all it could to provide basic education for Sierra Leoneans, but some set of people are hindering the progress. The Deputy Director of Education in the Koinadogo district, Abubakar Kuyate, explained that he was instructed by the Minister of Education to close the TECH-VOC because there were no qualified tutors.
I mean, we are all in the place again. We can go to the office, all the place in the village. We get the advertisement and we do the advertisement at the regional level. That is all the technical project construction, the non-academic. As a member of the family, we want to have the name for good government to each other. It will interest you to note that when I do this, only 2 teachers are then qualified for teaching at the technical. But when I do now, only 1 teacher, and that is the principal. We only put out on based on administration. There is no any technical knowledge. And when we talk of other disciplines, so we will make the communication to the ministers, you know, we're not going to invest in sorts of money in getting book again. We can't get part teachers there for go on in school. I prefer very technical, those who want to get qualified teachers there for all the technical.
Committee members, however, expressed dissatisfaction over the issues expressed, noting that the excuses given by the Deputy Director of Education was flimsy.
I would say that carelessness on you, personally, TECH-VOC only say pass the person qualified to get degree. TECH-VOC simple as make picking a able land for do something for get a living. So you want to see this one that our non-experienced tailor, they are from Otobo school, but Sabisu, no KABALA. No, you know what say pass the whole school. Because TECH-VOC, they teach the people by yourself. For let's Sabi for using hand. So to pass people that qualify. The guy is pass the great degree. My college, they don't lecture us from the college. Arts and crafts, you know that. So for saying the Robert no qualified person, it passed for me, and we are just punished the beginning for the benefit for maintain.
However, these citizens are calling on government to dismiss the education minister with immediate effect for what they refer to as an act of wickedness.
Our government, and for one making sack this minister because of it is trained people, they think they all don't boil everything don't boil at the place now. If for Saka, why they keep? Why did they get the post now? For Saka instant. It is still but people are response here. They not to a money, why did they go law? Now learning all in the vocational center.
A member of the KABALA community ended that report by Mahawa Aliyu, and that's how we round things up. But before we go, we bring you the main points again. Sierra Leone's Deputy High Commissioner to Nigeria has expressed gratitude to the President, the government and people of Sierra Leone for securing his release from kidnappers. Sierra Leone has joined the rest of the world to observe the World Population Day. The Parliamentary Oversight Committee on Transparency expressed dismay over deteriorating conditions of TECH-VOC centers in KABALA, and residents of Hillcourt Road expressed concern over the delay in the construction of the Hillcourt Road. That's all in the news tonight. Many thanks to the news editor Abubakar Bangura and the rest of the team. Thanks for watching. Issues in the News comes up next with Asmi Ram.
and welcome to Issues in the News, which is coming to you from the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation with me, Asmiba. The Sierra Leone People's Party candidate Navo Kaikai has been declared winner of the parliamentary by-election in constituency 001 in Luawa Chiefdom, Kailamu districts. Meanwhile, Madam Kaikai got more than 10,000 votes as against her opponent of the APC party, Haja Nasratu Jalloh, who registered a little over 4,000 votes. In Putlogo, NEC also declared APC's Usman Karanke Conte as winner of the by-election in constituency 050. But the National Electoral Commission, which conducted the election, described the process as peaceful. Well, how peaceful was it? We have in the studio Christopher Jones. He is the electoral officer for media and external relations. Welcome to Issues in News, Mr. Jones.
Thank you for having me.
In next point of view, the election was peaceful, but prior to the election, we had violence and mudslinging, and people wondered whether the election was going to pass off peacefully.
Well, we want to say we appreciate the presence of the Salon Police and also the work of MAPI, especially for Kailam districts, constituency 001. That is always the case during campaign period. Political parties are charged. But come the day of the polls, it's quiet, as it happened on the 9th of July 2016.
As the body that is responsible to organize elections in Sierra Leone, do you have any concern?
Yes. The National Electoral Commission is a little bit worried about the tension heightening in campaign period, because over and over we have been discussing with them, we have explained to them how to carry about campaign calendar given to them during the stakeholders meeting. Doesn't mean when you have 10 days campaigning period, you should have 10 days dancing out in the street. You can arrange your campaign calendar in such a way that you have time to meet voters, time to teach them how to vote. Despite this, it is a responsibility together with NCD, but they also can come out with electoral education, teaching the people how to vote and telling them that it is their constitutional mandate to come out and express their franchise. So not always dancing. Because when people dance in the street, you provide for them free drinks, food to eat. You cannot tell whether they are supporters or not. Because it's merriment, obviously, they'll come out to dance.
NEC also raises concern over the high presence of security personnel.
Yes, we are concerned because in most cases, if there are a lot of presence of police officers or army officers with guns, the voters might be intimidated and they might not be able to turn out. But this happened to be an isolated situation where, despite the presence of high police personnel, the people of constituency 001 do come out to express their franchise. Voter turnout was, excuse me please, let me check my records. Voter turnout was more than 60%.
For Kailamu?
For Kailamu.
I mean, that is not the best of...
That is not the best. You are right, that's not the best. But it's appreciated. I appreciate that one. As compared to the violence that was happening. We are even expecting less than that. But they do come out and they voted peacefully.
What about Lonsar? How many percent of votes?
Well, for the Lonsar political party turnout there, we're expecting 31,306 registered voters out of 110 polling stations. Voter turnout was 15,257, 48.7%. Unlike Kailamu, voter registered voter was 15,144. The percentage that came out, 15,144. A percentage of 58.9% do turn out to come and vote. Valid vote.
So meaning the turnout in Lonsar was lower. The turnout in Lonsar was lower, wasn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
And Kailamu.
Isn't that worrying? Because for a by-election, I mean, everybody who lives in the constituency knows that a particular day election is going to be held. So for the turnout to be less than 50% is worrying.
We describe that as voter apathy. That is always the case with by-elections. People don't come out to vote. What's their reason? They have various reasons that they could give. But keep on talking to them. Tell them that is your right. That is the only time that you can come out and express your franchise. You have to decide who you want. You have to speak out. You have to give mandate to somebody. You have to give mandate to a party to take the responsibility and to serve you in the community.
Did you notice any irregularity during the process?
Well, if you ask a referee how fair is the match, I think the referee will tell you that the match was well played. But if you ask somebody, a domestic observer, who will give a different side of the view, we're out in the field. We divide ourselves.
But you need to do a fair assessment of yourself.
For sure, for sure. But since we were there, and until this moment, we don't have any complaint from any political parties. And the views, the report from the domestic observers are very, very good. So see, there was no irregularity during the polls.
Okay. Now, do political parties really know what campaign is? Because the reason why I'm asking that question is deliberate, because whenever election is due, especially by election, there is tension, there is violence before the election. So you ask yourself, do they really know what campaign is?
During the process after declaration of the vacant seats, nomination gone, we have a very important activity in the constituency, stakeholders meeting. In that stakeholders meeting, the climax of that meeting is when we ask them to ballot for the days of campaign. In that, we take upon ourselves to explain what is campaign. Campaign is the time you sell your product, you sell your party ideology. What is the difference between APC and SLPP? What's the difference between SLPP and ADP? Talk to the people, tell them, convince them, persuade them to buy your product. We continue to tell them, you cannot be selling pancake or something, you have a machete in your hand. You cannot be selling your broken bottles in your hand. You're fighting the voters away. So we expect them to have known the essence and the importance of campaign period. That's
so what's your relationship with PPRC, the institution that regulates the behavior and conduct of political parties? Because it is they who regulate the behavior of the political parties, the conduct of political parties.
We have a very cordial relationship. RCC, Chief Electoral Commissioner, is part of the board for PPRC. And whenever we have what we call political party liaison committee meeting, we do invite PPRC, we do invite NCD, which always are political parties, where we discuss issues both in the political parties, where we discuss issues pertaining to elections.
Mr. Jones, we have up to 10 registered political parties.
11 registered.
11 registered. How many of them took part in the by-election?
Only 3 registered political parties took part.
If 3 parties took part in an election where you have 11 registered political parties, one would say less than 20% of the parties took part. So how democratic is that?
Well, PPRC has a role to play that because there are conditions that will allow a party to maintain its party status after registration. One of those regulations, you have to have a political office in all the districts. So if you cannot have a political party in all the districts, it's a problem.
But I have spoken to members of the other political parties. One of the concerns they raised was this issue of how do you call it? Nomination fees. Some of the smaller parties are crying. They are saying the fees are too high. As a reason, they've been knocked out.
If you have a party members pay subscription, and you have local council election, nomination fee is 1 million. If you have a party with more than 20 people as executive members, if you cannot pay 1 million as nomination fee for local council, I wonder what you do.
But they are saying they are not money generating institutions.
But members do pay dues. You register to those groups. You don't just get in and say, I want to be a member of APC, I want to be members of PLP, people Liberated Party. You have to pay registration.
Isn't that worrying for NEC? 11 political parties, only 3 are taking part in most of the recent by-elections. Isn't that worrying to you?
It's worrying because we do cater for them. We spend a lot of money. Because whenever we have activities, whenever we print out documents, we consider 11 political parties. Whenever they declare declaration of vacant seats, we send documents to them. We do invite them. So they do turn up. It's a waste of resources. You have 11 registered political parties, and for by-elections, only 3. But all of them are waiting for the general elections.
Apart from the political parties sensitizing their members to come out and vote, what is also NEC doing? What were you doing there to tell people to come out and vote? Because yeah, it is the parties, it is they who want to vote, but also if there is no election, then it is not relevant.
Sure. Immediately after the declaration of the vacant seats, we do go to the constituency and we have town criers. We have what we call, we print out flyers, posters, we continue to talk to them. We do electoral education on to the day in the polls. The ballot paper issue, do voter education, tell people what to do, how to mark the ballots. We continue to do our responsibility because on the day when campaign ends a day before, the next day is a cooling off period. During that time, we also engage the voters. We do talk to them. With the time criers, we want PA system on top of vehicles, going around and convincing the people, telling them what to do. And offer to call Know Your Candidate. It's a printout document where you see the name of the candidate and the party where it's coming from, the symbol, and we have a blank space which tells you how to mark the ballot. We do all of that.
Are you also thinking of coming up with innovative ways of how parties should embark on a campaign? Because it seems as if the traditional way of campaigning is creating problem.
Yes, yes. Since we have radio in all the districts, I think it's time to start engaging, going to the radio, going to the TV stations, and start coming out to the streets. They can come out to the streets maybe for once, maybe closer to the end of the campaign period. They have time to look at groups that are marginalized in the constituency, meet them, have meeting with them, sit down and talk to the people, convince them. You can also use that as another method of campaign than coming out in the streets. Every day you have campaign, political parties come out in the street to campaign. And whenever they come out, there's a lot of tension. Because people stand up looking at them, they have certain remarks, flimsy remarks against them. That creates problem also.
Any lessons learned from the two by-elections, one in local and one in Lonsar?
Yes. We continue to appeal to party stewards, big guns of political parties, until and unless they stop going to the voting areas, they stop going to constituency where they don't have any business. Tension will always arise.
Well, Mr. Jones, if you speak to some of these big wigs, the argument they are pushing is, for instance, let's take an example here. If you talk to Maya Kaikai, he hails from Kailamu. If you talk to John Oponjo Benjamin, he hails from Kailamu.
But is he a registered voter there? Oh. That's the question. Are they a registered voter in constituency 001? I don't know.
No, but even if they are not, but they hail from that district, so would you stop them from going there?
But if we're asking for fair play, and they have trust in the independency of NEC, and they have structure at district level, you stay where you are and talk to your district structure.
So what is NEC doing towards that? I mean, because you've preached and preached and preached, and it keeps repeating itself. Anytime a by-election is held, we see chairman or deputy chairman or secretary general or secretaries general of political parties going there.
We keep on engaging them, and PPRC is pushing to have rules that can bite. So if they start biting, they don't start biting, maybe that will be something that people keep in.
Is that going to be possible, Mr. Jones?
Nothing is impossible, my brother. Nothing is impossible. Because election is a fair play. Each party must have a level playing field to play the game.
Well, you should have learned a lesson from now. I will start from the Fuabe by-election around 2011 or so. Big wigs from the two political parties were there, and we all know how it ended. And the by-election in Sorobema, every time a by-election is held, you see big wigs from the two main parties, the SFP and the APC, going there. So one wonders whether NEC has the guts to say no to these big guys.
Remember, as you said earlier before, in Section 34 as enshrined in the 1991 Constitution, it is the responsibility of the PPRC to regulate the affairs of political parties. But notwithstanding that, in Kono, we held stakeholders meeting and rules were adopted that from this point, all big straws keep away.
Did they keep away?
Yes, they did. They did. So at times we can call stakeholders meeting, invite them all and set down the rules. What is creating a problem? If we agree that the presence of strats, big strat, party, big gunners are creating a problem, we can make that as a rule. Please keep away from the voting constituency until after the polls.
Okay, well, Dustin, thank you very much. He is Christopher Jones. He is the electoral officer for media and external relations. We are discussing about the outcome of the just concluded two by-elections in Lonsara and also in Kailaun district. The one in Kailaun district was won by the SLPP. Madam Navukaika, and also the one in Port Loko was won by the APC Usman Karanke contest. Thank you very much for being part of Issues in the News, Mr. Jones.
Thank you.
While the program has been Issues in the News, I've been your host, Asmi Ubati. We'll join you again tomorrow for another fresh edition of Issues in the News. I've been your host. Bye-bye.